Have you ever laid awake at night, wondering one uncomfortable question? Am I doing better than everyone else financially? Or am I secretly falling behind? Maybe you check your bank account before going to bed. Maybe you open your investment app and stare at the numbers. Or maybe you're scrolling social media, seeing someone your age posting photos from a luxury vacation, driving a brand new car, moving into a beautiful house, and a thought creeps into your mind. How are they affording that? Are they actually rich? Or are they just better at pretending? Because here's the truth that almost nobody talks about. Most people have absolutely no idea what the average person's financial life actually looks like. We assume everyone else is doing better. We assume everyone else has more money, more savings, more investments, more success. But what if I told you the financial reality of the average person is completely different from what you think? And today, we're going to pull back the curtain. Not guesses, not opinions, real numbers. By the end of this video, you'll know how much the average person actually earns, how much Americans really have saved, how much debt they're drowning in, and where you truly stand compared to everyone else. Some of these numbers might make you feel relieved, others might hit you like a wake-up call. But one thing is certain, once you see the real data, you'll never look at money the same way again. Before we dive in, think about this for a moment. When you imagine the average person financially, what do you picture? Someone steadily building wealth, investing for retirement, making smart financial decisions, or someone living paycheck to paycheck, hoping nothing unexpected happens? Because the reality might shock you. And the first number we need to talk about is something every working person cares about: income. Every 2 weeks, you receive a paycheck. But here's the question most people never ask. How does your paycheck compare to everyone else's? According to the latest data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median weekly earnings for a full-time worker in America is just over $1,000. That works out to roughly $52,000 per year before taxes. Let that sink in. $52,000, not $100,000, not $80,000, $52,000. And remember something important here. This is individual income, not household income. That means it's just one person's earnings, not a couple, not a family, just one worker. And the word median matters too. Median means exactly half of workers earn more than this amount and half earn less. In other words, $52,000 represents the financial middle of America. So, if you're making around $25 to $26 per hour, congratulations. You are almost exactly where the typical full-time worker is, but here's where things start to get interesting. Because that $52,000 figure, that's before taxes. Once federal taxes, state taxes, Social Security, and Medicare take their share, that number shrinks fast. Depending on where you live, your take-home pay might drop to somewhere around $35,000 to $40,000 per year. Suddenly, the average income doesn't feel quite as big anymore. Now, here's where the real question begins. Because income alone doesn't determine your financial life. What truly matters is what people do with the money after they earn it. And this is where the numbers start getting uncomfortable. Let's talk about something that should concern every single person watching this video. Retirement savings. If you stopped working today, how long could your savings support you? A year? 6 months? Maybe just a few weeks? According to the Federal Reserve's most recent financial survey, the median retirement savings in America is about $65,000. Yes, you heard that correctly? $65,000. Now, before you react to that number, there's something even more shocking. That number only includes people who actually have retirement accounts. Because about 25% of Americans have nothing saved at all. Zero. No retirement account. No investment fund. Nothing. That means 1 out of every 4 people you pass on the street today has absolutely no money saved for retirement. They are completely dependent on one thing: Social Security. And that leads us to another eye-opening number. The average Social Security benefit in the United States is about $1,550 per month. That's roughly $18,600 per year. Now think about that realistically. Could you live comfortably on $18,000 per year? Rent, food, healthcare, transportation, utilities, everything. For most people, that would barely cover basic survival, and it gets even more interesting when we break retirement savings down by age, because the numbers tell a powerful story. If you're under 25 years old, the median retirement savings is less than $2,000. Now, that might not seem terrible since many people in their early 20s are just starting their careers. But the next group is where things get concerning. For people aged 25 to 34, the median retirement savings is about $14,000. That means millions of people who have already spent years working, saving, earning, have less than $15,000 invested for their future. And when we move to people age 65 and older, the median retirement savings climbs to about $88,000. At first glance, that might sound decent. But watch what happens when we apply something called the 4% rule. The 4% rule is a simple retirement guideline. It suggests you can safely withdraw about 4% of your retirement savings per year without running out of money too quickly. So if someone retires with $88,000, 4% of that is roughly $3,500 per year, or about $290 per month. Think about that. After working for 40 years, the average person's retirement savings can produce less than $300 per month. That's not even enough to cover groceries in many cities. And this is exactly why understanding these numbers matters so much. Because if you simply follow the same financial habits as the average person, you will likely end up with the same results. And the average results are not very good. But we're just getting started. Because when we look at how much Americans spend every month, the picture becomes even clearer. And the next number might completely change how you think about your own budget. Now let's talk about something that affects your life every single day. Not income, not retirement, but something much more immediate. Spending. Because earning money is only half the equation. The other half is what people actually do with it. And when we look at how much the average American household spends every month, the numbers are eye-opening. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American household spends about $5,577 every single month. That adds up to roughly $67,000 per year. Now stop for a moment and really think about what that means. If a household spends $67,000 per year, they need to bring home at least that much just to break even, not to build wealth, not to invest, not to save for the future, just to survive. And remember something important here, this is after-tax money. So in order to spend $67,000 per year, a household may need to earn $85,000 to $95,000 before taxes, and that's just to stay at zero. No progress, no financial growth, just running on the treadmill. So where does all this money actually go? Let's break it down. And the biggest expense won't surprise you, housing. The average household spends around $1,885 per month on housing costs. That includes rent or mortgage, property taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance altogether. That's more than $22,000 per year just to keep a roof over your head. And if you live in a major city like New York, Los Angeles, or San Francisco, you might be laughing at that number because in many places, $1,800 barely gets you a small apartment. Next comes the second biggest expense, food. The average household spends about $691 per month on groceries and dining out. That's more than $8,000 per year just to eat. And honestly, if you're feeding a family for under $700 a month today, you're probably doing something right because food prices have been rising fast over the last few years. Then comes another massive expense that most people underestimate: transportation. Between car payments, insurance, gas, maintenance, and public transportation, the average household spends about $913 per month. That's nearly $11,000 per year just to get from point A to point B. Now, when you combine housing and transportation together, you're already looking at nearly $2,800 per month, and we haven't even talked about healthcare, entertainment, clothing, or savings yet. This is why many financial experts recommend a simple rule. Your housing plus transportation should never exceed 50% of your income, because once those two categories take up too much of your budget, it becomes incredibly difficult to build wealth. But there's another financial issue that quietly affects millions of people. Something that determines whether you get approved for loans, whether you qualify for good interest rates, and sometimes even whether you get hired for a job. Your credit score. Most people know credit scores matter, but very few know how they actually compare to everyone else. According to Experian, the average FICO credit score in America is about 715. Credit scores range from 300 to 850, so a 715 score is considered good credit. That means the average person is generally doing a few things right: paying bills on time, keeping debt somewhat under control, maintaining credit history. But don't let that number fool you, because millions of people still have credit scores in the 500s and 600s, and those lower scores can cost them thousands of dollars over time through higher interest rates, which brings us to one of the biggest financial traps in modern life: credit card debt. This is where things get painful. The average American household carries more than $9,000 in credit card debt. Think about that. $9,000. And unlike a house or a car, most of that money was spent on things that no longer exist: clothes, electronics, restaurants, online shopping, impulse purchases, things that felt exciting in the moment, but disappeared long ago. And here's what makes credit card debt even worse: interest rates. Many credit cards charge between 18% and 25% interest. So if you carry a balance of $9,000 at 20% interest, you're paying about $1,800 per year just in interest. That's money that produces zero value for your life. It simply disappears into the pockets of credit card companies. And this is one of the biggest financial mistakes people make, trying to invest money while still carrying high-interest debt. Because if you're earning 7% in the stock market, but paying 20% interest on debt, you're actually moving backwards. Now, let's talk about something that tells the full story of someone's financial life: net worth. Net worth is one of the simplest financial formulas in the world. Everything you own minus everything you owe: your home, your savings, your investments, your retirement accounts, minus your mortgage, credit cards, student loans, and other debt. The result is your true financial position. According to the Federal Reserve, the median net worth of an American household is about $122,000. But that number changes dramatically depending on age. If you're under 35, the median net worth is less than $14,000. Between 35 and 44, it rises to about $91,000. Between 45 and 54, the median reaches around $168,000. For those aged 55 to 64, it climbs to about $212,000. And for people between 65 and 74, the median net worth is about $266,000. Now here's the interesting part. These numbers might look big at first glance, but when you spread them across a lifetime of work, they're actually very achievable. You don't need to invent the next billion-dollar startup. You don't need to win the lottery. You don't need a six-figure salary. In many cases, simply doing a few things better than average can completely change your financial future. Because here's another surprising statistic: save a little more, invest consistently. Over time, those small advantages compound into massive results. Because money follows one simple rule: consistency beats intensity. The average person may retire with $88,000 saved, but someone who consistently saves and invests for 30 or 40 years could retire with hundreds of thousands or even millions, not because they were lucky, but because they chose to be intentional with their money. And that's the real purpose of these statistics: not to scare you, not to discourage you, but to give you something incredibly powerful: perspective. Because once you understand what normal looks like, you can decide whether you want to follow the crowd or build a completely different financial future. The choice is yours.